On this episode of AV Week, the impact of government relations on the AV industry, where UC belongs in the residential side of the industry, and AVIXA says AV business has stabilized. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 576, recorded Friday, September 2nd, 2022. AV Economics.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Chief, the global leader in commercial AV mounting solutions, and by Middle Atlantic, what great systems are built on.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week, first and foremost, Melissa Dillman with Zoom. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Tim. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. If you're not watching the video, Melissa is sporting her brand spanking new purple Zoom shirt, so that's pretty cool. Congratulations to her. An old friend who I haven't seen in forever, Patrick Murray with Control House, living over in Germany, but still doing the AV thing. Welcome, sir.
Thanks, Tim. No trade shows, so we don't get to see each other, right?
That is kind of how that works, sir. Unfortunately, yeah, you're right. And last but not least, a young man, and I emphasize the young part, from CCI's Houston office, Xavier Kilkelly, also one of the newest 40 under 40 from Commercial Integrator. Welcome, sir, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Tim. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
So really quickly, we're not going to talk about 40 under 40. It's a great thing. Don't at me. I think it's a fantastic thing. I'm not saying that because Chris Snow and I were on the inaugural class. It's 8 years old. Just put the math. Okay. But it is a cool thing, right? Xavier, really quickly, what does that mean for a young person and just, a young AV professional coming up through the industry? What does it mean to be put on a list like that?
For me, it's a great honor, right? I think that anytime you're recognized for anything that you do, and whether it's in your industry or in your home, if you make the dishes and your wife is happy that you did it, I think that recognition goes a long way. It's inspiring, right? Being that I came into the industry, didn't really know much, and through the help of others, really I've been able to grow within the industry. And it just shows that no matter where you come from or how you get into this industry, anything is possible, and the industry is willing to recognize you for that. I think that it's something that I didn't expect, but I'm really grateful for. And I hope that somebody somewhere looks at me on that magazine and reads about it and thinks that they can do it too. And I think that that's the biggest thing. I just being able to have other young people or even older people be inspired by some some kid coming into AV, learning this space and having some fun doing it. So yeah, it's a great honor, and I'm really appreciative of CI Integrated or CI Magazine for looking to expose me in that way. So it's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. So congratulations again, and to all the other 40 under 40s. You can check that out. We'll put a link on this episode's page. First story comes to us from our friends over at AV Network and SCN. AVIXA has released the July numbers for their pro AV growth, quote unquote, mixed economic signals. According to the report, in AVIXA's latest Pro AV Business Index, July marked another solid month for the Pro AV industry, a slight downturn. The AV Sales Index, AVI-S, measured at 61.4, slight reduction from June, which was at 63.3. Just to give you context, most months were hitting around 60 prior to the pandemic. Peter Hansen from AVIXA says, quote unquote, comments from our survey respondents indicate that the barriers to faster growth remain on the supply side, with a lack of available skilled workers and especially long lead times on certain products, slowing project work. This also comes around the same time that the U.S. second quarter GDP numbers came out in late July, revealing a second consecutive quarter of contraction. Typically, 2 consecutive quarters of GDP contraction is a definition of a recession, but we're not in one as far as most economists kind of give the economy, they do some weighting there. So most economists are not saying that we are in a recession yet. Xavier, I'll start with you on this. When you look and you talk to your clients as they're rolling out new projects, as they're starting new builds and looking towards the third quarter and the first quarter of 2023, are you feeling what AVIXA is saying, that we're still on good solid ground as far as the AV economy goes?
Yeah, I think as far as the AV economy goes, it's kind of interesting, right? Because with COVID and everything that happened around that, companies have become a lot more technology focused. And I feel like in my situation at least, they've expanded their budget a bit to accommodate that need for technology. Not every office is going to have the ability to bring everyone back in, so they're really focusing on that video collaboration side. The challenges that I see are really from the supply chain side of things, and clients wanting the technology but not being able to actually implement it into their organizations or in their environments. So I think that's the biggest challenge from an actual like overall spend. I think that from an AV perspective, if you do have a diverse portfolio, I think that you'll find that you'll be, okay. Companies are really looking to enhance technology in every way. Gone are the days of, we don't need video conferencing, or we shouldn't look at this new technology that's out. People are really asking questions. They're being more interested in kind of what's going on in the space, and it's forced a lot of AV companies, I feel, to pivot and start to think about new gear, new supplies, and where they can get this stuff from. So I think as long as you, from an AV perspective, at least from the sales side, right, as long as you're kind of educated on what's out there and you can pitch what is available, I think that you'll be all right. But if you're a house that's focused on one particular manufacturer for how you do your designs, I think that that will be a challenge for companies for sure.
Patrick, across the Atlantic, obviously the economy of the EU, and specifically Germany, where you are, they have different different elements and issues that are affecting that economy. However, recession, or at least a retraction in the economy, is being felt globally. So where you're sitting, is this something that kind of resonates with you where you're sitting as far as the AV economy?
Well, I think it depends on where you're at, like what kind of vertical you're in. So like what Xavier said, if you have a bunch of different kinds of customers, AV can pretty much be recession proof. Like, we're not trading stocks, so we're installing equipment. And like, if you're in higher ed, does that recession hit higher ed? You would know that better than I would. Or if you're working for municipalities or defense or something like that, I often wonder how much these kind of headlines affect different types of integrators. And like what you were talking about, the supply side issue, it's really hard to get equipment. So getting the projects doesn't really seem to be the issue. It seems to be getting equipment to do the projects. And I'm going to go along with Xavier there. Like, we need to start looking at alternatives, because a lot of the things we deliver can be done with commodity equipment, just tablets and mini computers. And, we don't always need this proprietary kind of equipment. So, but then you mentioned the skilled workers as well. And that's even a extra level up, is to have the skills to turn that commodity into equipment into something that, translates to AV.
And to kind of speak to Patrick's point about the skilled workers and having the ability, once you get the gear, to actually install it. I think that organizations as a whole are going to have to look at how they acquire talent and their education that they provide within their organization to teach people how to be better prepared out in the field, so that even if you have a shortage of technicians or engineers in the way that you typically go out, your HR team typically goes out and acquires talent, you can at least go to fields that are similar, or areas that are similar to your company, and actually train up individuals to be able to kind of to get out there and tackle some of these jobs, because I think that's going to be the next problem, right? The gear is going to become available all at once. You're going to have 100 different organizations ready to get their project started, and there's not going to be enough subcontractors to take on the work. So organizations really have to focus on how they are acquiring talent, where they are acquiring talent from, and start looking and thinking outside of the box. And education within that they provide within their organization is going to be really important because people are going to need that. And so that's where you should start to focus, I think, as well from an organizational standpoint.
All right, Melissa, whether it's the economy part or even the labor part, when you look at this story, what strikes you as the most important aspect for the integrators?
I think these guys are spot on. It's all about, gonna be about your talent pool. Brand loyalty has started to take a side step. Product is king. If you have the product available, if you can make it work, that's what the customers are going for. I think we're getting ready to see the return start to turn a little more. We're seeing more activity in offices who are rethinking the way they're laid out, how they're going to approach return to office, but definitely seeing more activity on that side of it. So that's exciting. And, the comment about whether we're in a recession or not, I had a professor once who taught me the difference between a recession and a depression was whether or not you had a job, right? They can mean two very different things. And I see a lot of talent out in the market right now, not necessarily all of them being picked up as quickly as one would think. So at this point, if you can find the bodies, I agree. Grab the bodies, get them trained, get them prepared, because I believe we're certainly going to see a lot more movement in the coming months.
Next story comes to us from AV Magazine. A ban on the use of illuminated and light-emitting advertising displays after 10 p.m. has been introduced to meet and exceed energy use reduction targets agreed at the European Union level. According to new details about the energy-saving regulations published by Munich-based digital signage consultancy Invitis, it says the regulations have been written, quote-unquote, at great speed, and there are still some uncertainties as how they will work. Patrick, I swear to you, I forgot that you were in Germany, but it's a happy accident that this story came this week. Talk to us for a second about what the EU is doing and how not just this specific regulation, but other government regulations are going to have a negative impact on the AV industry and their users.
Well, Europe has an energy problem, right? They were dependent on importing energy, and now that's gone away. So the EU has decided to reduce energy usage by 15%, and then Germany decided to reduce it by 20% on their own, and that needs to come from somewhere. So I kind of get the feeling that they're just looking at everything across the board. How could we kind of pick off little bits and pieces of this energy problem? And these displays that are on all the time are actually a great place to start. I think it's well-intentioned, as a lot of these things are. But I do have a huge issue with the 5-day deadline. That's just ridiculous because on the practical side, how are you going to make that happen? They're assuming that all these things are on the network and there's an IT team ready to go. And in reality, you try to get IT to do something in 5 days. Good luck. And that's assuming that all those displays are on the network, right? What if they're not on the network? So I'm picturing like a guy running around with a van, burning up all this diesel, installing little relays that had to be manufactured somewhere. So are we really at a net negative on the whole thing? And you could just go on and on and on. It turns out a lot of these displays are replacing lights in dark places. So in the subway, if you turn off all those displays, it's suddenly dark. So there may be an increase in crime. Again, it's all well-intentioned, but the way these things play out, just trying to push it through like that, it's leaves a lot to be desired.
All right, Melissa. Melissa's in Georgia. Xavier's in Texas. A couple of rather conservative states. So take a look at this, either from the state level, Melissa, or the federal level. What other sort of regulations, or do you foresee the U.S. federal government taking a look at energy savings and doing things that will impact our industry?
It's interesting that California has recently announced, right, by 2025, all vehicles will be electric. Okay, but you want me to turn off LEDs, which are very low in the power that they're drawing. Here in Atlanta, I would make the case, not necessarily that I'm concerned about how bright, how much power they're drawing, but there's also been a big movement that some of these signs along the road are so ultra bright, it's distracting. Maybe there's a happy medium. I don't know that the states are going to go after trying to make these changes like Germany did. 5-day window, that seems, absolutely impossible. So I agree with, we do the best we can and conserve where we can, but it has to be legitimate. And like Patrick said, how much diesel are you spending trying to get crews rescuing these things in 5 days? So good effort. We'll give them a good effort, but execution might need a little more work.
Yeah, and I agree. Well, I'm in Texas, so I'll just leave that there with that, right? So
Offset.
we may be a little, yeah, right. We may be a little slower to that than some other states, but I feel like that's the way of the world. The way of the world is conservation and trying to, quote unquote, save the earth, and so they'll do that in whatever way they see fit. I think that if it does make it to the states for digital signage and what that means to digital signage, I think it makes it's even more important now to have the right integration partner helping you out with that digital signage phase and how you want to deliver your message. I think that if you're appropriately monetizing digital signage, you have a great idea of when your message is being delivered the most effective anyway, and it probably isn't at 10 p.m. Right? So I think that from that standpoint, it helps for data that is driven behind the technology to help guide people. Help guide customers on when and where they should display their technology, and it may help out for the AV industry just a little bit, because now there's going to be a bigger conversation around how do we deploy this and how do we make it effective. So I think that all in all, for what it's going to do for the environment, I think it's great, and for what it's going to do for the industry, I think it's also great, because you have more intelligent conversations around how content is being delivered and marketed to individuals abroad.
Yeah, just to kind of tail on to that, it brings the control conversation back to the table, because it's not by default that every digital signage system even has control. And it could be a tough sell, but something like this could be real incentive to convince people that control is important to save energy and to have that, access to all of your deployments.
That's why it's my favorite part of AV, dude. I'm not good at it, but it's still my favorite part.
On and off. It's not that hard.
Oh, I know, 1 and 0.
1-0.
I'm still not good at it, guys. Seriously.
It's tough. I'm with you on that, Tim.
That's why I make friends with people like Patrick and Steve Greenblatt, okay?
There you go.
Rave Pub has got our last story. CEDIA Expo announced the second annual IMCCA Work from Home Showcase at CEDIA Expo 2022. CEDIA Expo, really quickly, is the 29th of September through October 1st. AVNation will be there, and we'll be hanging out with our friends at IMCCA for a bit. Through a partnership with CEDIA Expo, the Interactive Multimedia and Collaborative Communications Alliance, which is what IMCCA stands for, will bring insights, subject matter experts, and interactive demonstrations to CEDIA Expo 2022. Technically and literally, IMCCA will be presenting a quote-unquote state of the work from home industry sessions to the CEDIA Expo Smart Stage. In addition to the CEDIA Expo Smart Stage, an innovation hub will feature topics and brands highlighting best practices for design and installation, considerations for light commercial spaces, and resi-commercial opportunities. Now, if you don't know what CEDIA Expo is and never heard of CEDIA Expo, 30-second version, it's the residential version of Infocom. It is where the CI channel, the custom installation channel, goes to find the latest, greatest AV. There are a lot of commercial AV companies that will be there. But Melissa, when you look at this, and this is the second time the IMCCA has been involved with CEDIA Expo, what exactly does CEDIA and the residential channel have to do with collaboration?
Well, it's perfectly simple. I think they're smart to take this on. I think we're all looking for the easy button. So I have my work from home set up, or they're going to help me deploy it. At some point, I'm going to go to the office. Is there a way to easily travel all of my settings, all of my environment with me back to the office? Let's say there's a QR code and I can scan it. And now it knows my calendar at my workstation. It knows my contacts. It's ready for me as if I were working from home. So having that flexibility to be able to take my environment that's already set up, I work from home a majority of the time, but when I do go to the office, I need that same functionality without a complete refresh. I don't want to have to set all of it up again. And as we transition more and more, the executives, they should have the same experience as home that they do in their boardroom. So it makes perfect sense that the CEDIA membership get engaged with how do we better provide that continuity of experience in both environments or even remotely. If I'm traveling, can I still have that same connectivity, that same experience? So I think it's really bright of them to go and analyze how to help their membership do this even better. And it'll be very useful, I think, to many people. We started out the pandemic, everybody bought a camera that was good enough. Worth, 3 years later? Now we want a camera a little better than that, right? Now we want it, we really do need to hear and we need to see. So I think they have a good opportunity in it, and it's a great opportunity for them to get involved. And I can see it working for their customer base as well. So good for them.
All right, Xavier, same kind of question is what does this have to do with the residential market, and do you see a space here for end users going between their home, AV having commercial products, and back to the office?
Yeah, I mean, I think that as time passes, the more and more we realize that the work from home is here to stay, and how organizations pivot around that is really yet to be seen. But I think that office spaces are going to start to become more collaborative spaces, more so than individual workstations. So the home office may end up being the more comfortable environment for people. And I think for me personally, I love working at home, but if that's the case, then I think technology does have to shift in that way, and I think that having things like that displayed at this type of expo is going to be huge. It's going to be huge for everyone. And look, the more technology people start to learn about, the more they want to place it in different environments is kind of expected, right? So I mean, you see it at schools. My 6-year-old has an iPad and a laptop. I didn't even know what that was at 6. So it's people are going to be raised into this technology. You might as well start to have conversations around making it a pleasant and seamless experience from the boardroom to your home office.
Yeah, Xavier, I know you're 40 under 40, but that's because it didn't exist when you were 6. So I know you're
True.
young, bub, but
Right, that's true.
I mean,
Our internet lived on a library shelf and it was a
oh,
row of books, right? Remember those days?
Yeah, I remember those
encyclopedias.
days.
Yeah. Anyhow, uh, Patrick, the last word on this. Where does UC and collaboration belong for end users when it comes to the home versus the office?
Well, I think it makes perfect sense for CEDIA if companies are actually giving their employees a budget for higher end peripherals at home, then there's definitely a play there too, because if the residential installer is in the home anyway, then that's the obvious person to ask where to get that kind of hardware. But like what Melissa was saying was, it seems like it's more of going to be an IT type of a thing or remote management where your settings are following you around. How are you going to, avoid the "can you hear me? Can you hear me?" Is there any way to do system checks before the meeting to make sure everybody's really ready to go? Things like that. That kind of quality of service. There could definitely be a managed services play for resimercial integrators. And that's the last thing I'd like to say is, can we please stop saying that? I don't think that should be a part of anybody's elevator pitch. It just doesn't roll off the tongue.
It doesn't, and this is a general kind of last question, and all three of you at the same time can answer, or whatever, or one at a time. I point out one last time that Patrick is in Germany, and my basic and limited exposure to the European market, in that market, there is not a residential and commercial split. like there is in the US. You do a V, it doesn't matter where it is, right? That is one of the Patrick's shaking his head, sort of, kind of. So correct me here, right? Because that was my understanding is one of the successes of ISE, Integrated Systems Europe, is the fact that it's got residential products and commercial products cobbled together, because depending on where you are in Europe, you can kind of do both. Am I wrong on that, Patrick?
Yeah, no, I don't think you're wrong. I think you're kind of correct, but it depends on geographically where you are.
Then I'm wrong. You can say I'm wrong.
No, I think that in the
He's
States,
wrong all the time.
I think in the States there's just more neighborhoods, I guess you could say, where residential integration is popular and people are willing to spend the money on that. I think it's a more difficult play in Europe, and even higher end homes here, the electrician tends to install a lot of the automation and integration. But there are much fewer integrators who specialize in resi. You're right there. But to say that everyone does both, it wouldn't be accurate either. I think most integrators here, would be safe to say, do commercial.
Very good. Well, thank you all so much. Melissa Dillman, very nice to see you, and congratulations on joining the fine folks at Zoom. How do people connect with you or your small company, Zoom?
So, we'll make the attorneys happy and do the, all viewpoints were my own, solely my own, not spoken upon or behalf of Zoom. There you go. Attorneys happy. But you can reach me at melissa.dillman@zoom.us, which so creative, but easy to remember. Thanks for having me, Tim.
Absolutely, man. Always. Absolutely. Mr. Murray, good to see you, sir. And I know in real life we haven't seen each other in a minute, but seriously, good to see you. How do people connect with you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. It's probably the easiest, Patrick Murray. And learnavprogramming.com is one of my websites, and also integratingtechnologypodcast.com. A few different places you could find me.
I was on that one once, I think.
The very first one.
A long
You got to do it again.
I don't do anything. Ask my team. I don't do anything. Xavier, good to see you, sir. And congratulations again on the 40 under 40. How do people connect with you?
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. You can find me on LinkedIn, Xavier Killikelly. I know it may be difficult to spell out, but Killkelly. That's the last name. I'm always, on LinkedIn, always available. Also, my email, xavier.killikelly@cti.com.
Yeah, absolutely. Those, thank you so much. For us, for AVNation, go by our website. Do not follow me on the Twitters. I'm about a week away from really regretting being a Bears fan. But go by the website, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others. While you are there, please check out our brand spanking new reconfigured AV profession. Taylor Moore, our writer here at AVNation and at CTI, is taking on the task of interviewing individual AV professionals and just kind of getting their story about how they got involved in the industry, what they think of the industry so far, and what they see towards the future. So check out the AV profession as well. I mentioned CEDIA Expo. We are heading down there, so you can check out our pre-show coverage where we interview folks and see what they'll be bringing to Dallas. And then also during that week, we'll be posting interviews from the show floor. So all that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.